Why won't they engage Congress in the critical details, the potential risks facing American citizens and our service members, who we all have an obligation to protect?
That was Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer earlier today blasting the Trump administration for postponing classified briefings for Congress on Iran and Israel. Those briefings initially set for today have been rescheduled for Thursday. As for those potential risks to Americans that Schumer mentioned, I want to discuss with Juliette Kayyem, who is the Assistant Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security. Juliette, thanks for being with us. Federal officials telling CNN that the ceasefire has not stopped them from closely monitoring any threats stemming from the conflict here in the Middle East. They seem to be primarily concerned about lone wolf and cyber attacks in the U.S. What are you hearing?
I think the same. I've former intelligence agents and senior leaders. So a nervous public, I want to help explain it. So the first pool is, of course, Iranian-backed terrorist attacks in the I think it's very unlikely, as a former senior official said to me, they would be very loath to do that because it just gives the United States an obvious reason to continue in the fight. The second pool is the potential of rogue, like, what kind of command and control does Iran have over elements that go rogue, do an attack here or a cyber attack to tell. And I think that's where our intelligence agencies are right now. The third area is, of course, what's going to happen if the ceasefire ends, or more importantly, if the language gets into things like regime change again. I got a little bit nervous when Trump was talking about a regime change because that would put the Iranians in a corner and then that they would launch a lot of what we call asymmetrical attacks either in Europe or the United States. So we're looking across all three of them. But I think a targeted planned attack by Iran in the homeland is the least likely at this stage.
I mean, there have been assassination attempts traced back to Iran of individuals in the United States. There were threats against President Trump during the campaign. We hear a lot about so-called Iranian sleeper cells inside the U.S. How real is that? How much of a concern is that these days?
Yeah, and I don't mean to minimize any of that, nor that Hezbollah still has a footprint harmed and undermined, but it still has a presence. But if you're asking me, is Iran's response going to be focused on the homeland? There's lots of reasons to say no. One is, as a strategy, it makes no sense for them. Secondly, with the news that our attack may have not been as successful as originally explained in the early days after the attack, they can poking us here in the homeland doesn't make a lot of sense. The problem is, of course, what control do they have over elements that may have been radicalized or decide to act on their own? That we don't know. And I think that would be the biggest fear of the FBI, is it scours its intelligence, determines who's here, who's been, targeted by the Joint Terrorism Task Forces. Still real. There's a range of different kinds of attacks, but that's how we're thinking about it for the homeland, knowing that it would be easier for Iran to attack in Europe if it decided to go outside of its borders.
And what about Americans abroad? How do you think they should think about safety while traveling?
That's exactly right. I mean, I'm also, a friend and a mother and all that stuff. I get all the emails and the texts. That is very real. So one is follow the State Department. There are countries now that are on the no travel list. Don't fool around. I don't fool around with that list. I'm Joyce, even if I'm going to visit, for a conference or a family member, don't fool around. That list is serious because it means that this department doesn't have the apparatus to protect you. There's then a level of kinds of threat environments. Just be smart. Sign up with the State Department to the country that you are going to, so the embassy knows that you're there. Have what we call situational awareness. Know what's going around you. Minimize that you're an American at this stage, especially if you're in high-risk areas.
And out front now, Democratic Senator Mark Warner of Virginia. He is, of course, the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee. And Senator Warner, I'm really grateful for your time tonight. So we get this early intel assessment information that's come out from the Pentagon, from the DIA, saying that in the U.S. strikes, the core of Iran's nuclear program was not destroyed, likely only set back a few months at most. What's your reaction to that?
Well, Aaron, I'm not going to comment on any kind of classified information. There's a reason the information is classified. But I got a lot of questions for the administration. They should have had that briefing today. And I can tell you there was plenty of debate in the open domain about whether bunker buster bombs alone could take out Iran's facilities. We also have got questions about where all of Iran's enriched uranium is located at this point. And if it's not taken out, what next? Are our troops still in harm's way? Will we have a cyber attack? I mean, I would love to have Iran, their nuclear capabilities eliminated without further retribution against America and a ceasefire. But I've got an awful lot of questions that in many cases just should have been answered before we took this action. That's why we have this consultation process. I remind you, President Trump got close to this in his first term and drew back. And again, 8 days ago, the American intelligence community still said Iran had not made a move towards a bomb. Is the president dismissing all of that, or is he saying he's going to trust Israel's intelligence over American intelligence? We're in a pretty uncharted territory, and as we've seen from history, when you mess with the intelligence in the Middle East, you end up with circumstances like Iraq.
And which, of course, the horror that brought to the U.S. for so many years and to the Middle East. I'm curious, though, Senator, you were supposed to receive a classified briefing today of the strikes and what they had achieved as far as the administration knows it to be at this time. That was abruptly postponed. Now, do you know why that was? Do you think that postponement is directly related to this intelligence assessment that we're learning about?
I don't know. The administration said they wanted to have Secretary Hegseth and Secretary Rubio back. But, when you do foreign policy by tweet, and that's what the president's been doing, making bold claims, and then the administration, one day they're saying our conflict is not with the Iranian people, it's only about the nuclear facilities. Then the president says no, regime change is on the table, then he backs off. Who amongst our allies, let alone our adversaries, know what to believe is the policy of the American government in a very, very dangerous part of the world?
So as we look at the situation now as you're the highest-ranking Senate Democrat on the Intelligence Committee, Senator. You're a member of the Gang of Eight. You are traditionally briefed on highly classified matters, and we understand from a source that you weren't actually told, even despite all of those things, about these strikes, which any country on the receiving end would consider an act of war, including our own. You were not told until after they occurred. Have you received any briefing at all on the strikes?
I have reviewed preliminary intelligence. It is still classified. I'm not going to comment on that. But I've got a lot of questions on Thursday when we see the administration officials. And as I said at the outset, there was an active debate in the public domain about whether bunker busters alone could take out Iranian facilities. And frankly, I've seen no direct information about whether we even know where all the enriched uranium was located prior to Saturday. So we've got a lot of questions. I think before you take this kind of action, the American people, frankly, not just the Senate, but the American people are owed some answers, because the question is, what next? Is there future strikes? Will our troops, are they in harm's way? Will there be a cyber attack or a terrorist attack? What next? And is the president going to completely disregard American intelligence, like the conclusion that Iran had not made the decision about moving towards a bomb? This is dangerous, dangerous stuff. And boy, oh boy, there has been a lack of clarity. And I would love it to play out the way the president proposed. Iran has been taken out. There's no further retaliation. And you've got peace now between Iran and Israel. I'm not sure that's going to be, I hope it's the future, but I've got a lot of questions about that.
Senator Warner, so much appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron.